Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. And today we're going to be talking about winning that customer experience battle with Sitecore and Salesforce. We thank you for joining us today. I'm Chris Becwar, Director of Product Marketing for our ecosystem here at Sitecore. And we've got Arturo Mendiola also joining us from Horizontal. Arturo, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for everyone for joining on this webinar for this hour.
So a couple housekeeping items first. Please do feel free to enter questions into the chat box. We're going to make some additional resources available for you. Ebook, some other things available in the handouts area, so check that out. And after the event, we encourage you to take a very quick post-webinar survey, and everyone that does take the survey is going to be entered for an Amazon gift card. The survey really kind of digging into how you view digital experience today, what you see as those challenges, and we'll share those results back with everyone. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the experience forward mantra and mindset a little bit. Arturo's going to dig into that, talk about what that means and what the implications are for you. Then we'll talk about building more scalable relationships with customers and prospects, and some useful frameworks for going about doing that. Then we'll take a quick look at what do we mean by the Sitecore and Salesforce joint offering. Take a look at what systems are coming together to support that, and a little behind that alliance relationship. And then we'll get into some real world examples. We'll start with a financial services customer. Then we'll take a look at a really interesting example from featuring the world's #2 commercial real estate player, Cushman & Wakefield, and what they've done around digital experience. And then we'll look at another customer, Formica, who has really had an amazing journey over the past few years in their digital experience, and Arturo will focus on that. Then we'll give you some additional places to go for more information, and then take your questions at the end.
Sounds good. Well, let's dive in. Thanks, Chris, for that introduction and orientation of what we'll be covering today. So Chris mentioned at the top of the agenda this notion of experience forward, and we talk a lot about that here with the clients that we work with on the projects that we're on with them. And really, to us, what that means is when you think about for your customers, your members, prospects, employees, stakeholders, whatever core audiences that you are trying to build awareness and relationships around is creating these experiences that have no dead ends, right? And part of that is starting and creating a fluid conversation between your core audiences and your brand so that you can confidently address those customer and user needs ideally in the moment. And once you build and create that fluid conversation, that ideally then starts to build a longer lasting relationship with your customers as they start to traverse through your brand's various channels like web, mobile, sales, service, and marketing campaign touchpoints. At the end of the day, getting to that point, it's really looking at how we create these market-leading experiences that require market-leading technology and data strategy. So again, today we'll be talking about where Sitecore's experience management platform and content tools combined with Salesforce's marketing and Sales Cloud products can really get you to that seamless customer experience that builds lasting relationships with your customers. And really, it's not a new concept. This is the Experience Economy was actually a book that the Harvard Business Review published back in 1999, and since then they've actually published a couple new iterations of it. But they kind of saw the future a little bit. They predicted what the Experience Economy was going to be all about. The first edition really talking about what things concerts and restaurants do to create an experience for their customers and where you can apply some of those principles and concepts to your business. And it still holds true today. There's a lot of things when you think about like workshops at Home Depot or at an Apple store, or how maternity wards are becoming more and more like spas. Even Starbucks is getting us to speak Italian when I order a large, I'm ordering a venti latte, right? And so this is where I think the book and the things in the book still hold true today. But I think what's even more important in today's day and world is the digital aspect of that experience, especially in the time of COVID. If we take a look down memory lane, when the first edition of the book was published in 1999, at the time, Amazon stock value was $69. In 2019, it was over $1,700. And I think even today, it's valued at $3,000 a share, or just over. So, no secret to their success. They've continually raised the bar on creating experiences for their customers, not only in their e-commerce aspect, but all the things that they're doing across platforms, whether it's content, entertainment, music. Again, 1999, Best Buy was putting out this PSA to turn your computers off in case they blew up when the world turned over. But today there's so much popularity and mainstream usage of not only on an individual consumer level, but in the business world today, and all of us marketers and technologists, where cloud computing and cloud technologies is such a core part of how we are creating our infrastructure and our operations around delivering these digital experiences. Netflix was still delivering DVDs over the mail, but today I think it's over 1,500 hours of streaming content that you can go onto and watch your favorite shows and movies. And most importantly, I think when you look at the advent of the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer, in 1999, there were only about 7 in the world. And now, according to Gartner, about 90% of organizations have a CXO or equivalent role. And so we realized that, CX is the last battleground. The stats continue to speak for themselves in the B2B category. McKinsey and Company, if you deliver an outstanding digital experience, you're 2 times more likely to be chosen as a primary supplier. Forrester's, same thing. If you deliver a superior CX in comparison to your competitors who deliver an inferior CX experience, you can outgrow your competitors by 5-fold. And this last stat, which I think is really telling, about 2/3 of customers will switch brands, not due to price or feature, but actually due to customer experience, or even a perceived lack of personalization, attention, or engagement by the brand. They'll switch pretty quickly. And at the end of the day, it's because this experience economy has really raised the stakes for all of us, and it's evident that customers are more demanding, more informed, less brand loyal. You think about Uber, right? If I think Uber is taking too long, with a couple taps and a couple swipes on my phone, I can quickly switch over to Lyft and get a ride with them and go straight to Lyft as the competitor and take my business elsewhere. And although it seems not fair, but this is the world we live in. And I continue to think about this quote from Brian Witcher from Forrester's, and he's been a speaker at Symposium a couple times and other industry conferences. But this great quote from him, he says, "Each time a customer is exposed to an improved digital experience, their engagement expectations are then set to a new higher level." So when you think about that for a moment, the Amazons, the Googles, the Apples of the world, when they create a new experience, that now is the new table stakes. And all other brands and companies are expected to deliver at that same level experience. But what's good is these pressures create opportunities. And I think if we are able to, rise up and deliver through connected CX journeys and find ways to seamlessly build on every touch point, for our customers, that then delivers or develops a clear picture of individual customer needs and wants, we can really win as well. But unfortunately, disconnected experiences are kind of the norm these days. They're not the exception. So I'm sure we've all been there, where we are in a process with a company, and either we're getting an email or a mobile tablet, or experiencing the brand on their website, or shopping on their e-commerce platform. Sometimes it feels like you're having a different conversation at each different touch point with that same company. So again, you start to get into a point of these channels and these touch points feeling disconnected from one another. And ultimately that leads to obviously poor customer experience and feelings and affinity. We found that more than 50% of customers regularly interact with brands using more than 4 channel touch points today, whereas about 10 years ago, only 7% of customers really hopped between channels like this. So again, focusing on having an experience that's takes the continuity and the journey in mind will really help you get to that next level. Because if you don't, that's where customer disappointment starts to set in. Chris, you want to actually talk about when you were shopping for a car?
Yeah. So, not too long ago, I couldn't help but think of this example as we were putting this deck together. I have been an owner of a Chevy Bolt for a long time, happy owner, and great car. And ever since I bought that car, I've been getting the regular promo emails for the new Bolt models coming out. And that's to be expected. Chevy knows of me as a Bolt customer, and they're marketing to me appropriately. But then something happened not too long ago that was a little concerning, right? I have been spending some time. The family's getting bigger. We've got a dog now. I'm looking for a bigger model, and was on the Chevy website checking out the new Tahoe models, and I even filled out a form to get. To ask some questions about trunk space in that model. But then just the other day, I'm still getting these emails, only talking about the new Bolt promo options, right? I'm not getting anything related to the Chevy Tahoe model, right? And if I'm someone who's ready to buy, right? If I see a good promo offer right now, I may jump on it, right? But instead, I've been on, looking at Explorer models and other things in the meantime. So I think, it's just an example of, I think, of a missed opportunity, right? You extrapolate that out to thousands of customers, that's a big missed revenue opportunity for Chevrolet.
Yeah, and it seems like evident there's maybe some missed opportunities in connecting those systems together to know more about you, right, Chris, and what Chevy's doing to try to get you as a customer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think another one is the example here on the right. We found this one where Delta was doing a promotion in terms of winning a chance for a couple tickets round trip on their Delta One experience. And this customer was disappointed because they got this email promotion, and when they tried to participate in it, they quickly found out they weren't eligible. And as we looked more into it, we thought and sort of came to the conclusion that this person wasn't eligible because they didn't meet the threshold of Delta Sky Miles to be eligible. So that one feels like a pretty simple one. Why did you send an email to all of these customers that weren't eligible when you could have just sort of set a parameter in the system to say only send this out to a certain threshold of customers and members that have met that mileage threshold? So again, these are simple things, little things, but then can lead to disenfranchised customers. But taking a step back, let's take a moment for audience participation here. Chris, you want to do this quick poll for the audience?
Yeah, so we're going to ask you guys to fill out a very quick one-question poll. So watch the webinar interface here to fill that out. The question is, to what extent are your marketing technologies really integrated and activating that full, connected, seamless CX journey and experience, in a really elegant way across all channels, right? So we want to hear what you think. Is this really something you're just crushing right now, and it's highly integrated, and, or are it fairly integrated? Are you just kind of getting going with this? Is it really low, or is it really just not there at all, right? So we want to give everybody a few seconds to give your 2 cents on that. Interesting. Okay.
What are you finding, Chris?
Responding. So, very interesting. So it comes out that 55%, more than any other, are really in a place of low integration as they see themselves. We're not seeing only 10% saying highly integrated, about 15% fairly integrated, and it's like not integrated at all, pretty low. So, definitely work to be done for the folks on the on the call today.
And, it was interesting. I was curious to see what those results would be because for those that voted, especially in that low integration, you're not alone. Gartner did another study and they found that 27% of these respondents in this technology survey indicated that integration between their marketing technology solutions is a major impediment to achieving their business goals. Taking a look a little bit further into that, another study by Sen2 asked the question, what are the most important features of implementing a MarTech stack? So the two here that are highlighted, systems integrations and multi-channel experience, are really two of the core things that we'll be talking a lot about today, along with touching a little bit on artificial intelligence. So again, you're in the same camp, but another thing that was interesting to me when I looked at this, 3 of the 7 are all tied together. So you look at that number 1, data insights and analysis, data centralization, and artificial intelligence. If I were to make a prediction, to me, those things are going to continue to converge over time and quickly here, which will also be another sort of core pillar that we need to consider as marketers and technologists to deliver these connected experiences. And when you think about brands that are kind of doing this well, that are really embracing this experience forward mentality, try to figure out what are they doing differently. And from our perspective, it comes down to 4 things. 1, they're evolving around delivering a smarter, more unified CX. They're thinking about how every interaction builds on the one that came before. They know how customers have engaged with them. And then ultimately, they use that intel to inform whether that's content, messaging, experience design, et cetera. And they plan for what's next. And when you look at the world today, there's a couple brands that are really nailing this whole experience forward thing. Peloton and Warby Parker are a couple that I'm huge fans of. And when you kind of take a quick look or a closer look at Peloton, you've maybe seen their ads, or maybe a friend or family member has one, or you might even have one of these bikes in your house right now. And I applaud you because I also want to get back into shape here. I think my COVID bod is starting to set in here, but the bikes are not cheap. They run like $2,000. And you also have to pay for that $40 monthly membership to the programming. But they're doing really well because of the amazing experience that they've created for their customers. They're willing to pay for that product and service. And they back it up when you think about the connected bikes and treadmills that are set up to their fitness programming and their fitness instructors, where they interact or how you can interact with others in the Peloton community. So sharing stats of mileage or time or personal records. They continue to think experience forward as well by expanding their offering. That app that they have is more fitness focused versus sort of a specific training sort of module. And you can take that app and you can take one of their trainers on a run through neighborhood with you. So again, they've done really well. And I think in their humble beginnings, they were trying to fund product development via Kickstarter, but now the company's valued at $8 billion. The other one that's doing really well is Warby Parker. So again, looking at what they've done, and this is what I'm kind of mad at. It's such a simple idea, but so ingenious at the same time. But Warby Parker originating as a pure play digital direct-to-consumer brand, why not let customers shop online for eyeglasses and send them to their home, try them on for a few days in the comfort of their own space, and then ultimately pick one, have prescription-ready eyeglasses delivered to you at your home. Pretty genius, but they didn't stop there. They've expanded with opening brick and mortar stores where you can get an eye exam, you can pick out frames, you can have adjustments made if you're already a customer that already has a pair of glasses with them. And even on their app, you can virtually try on frames with their facial recognition feature on their app. So again, another brand that's taking CX to that next level and thinking all the way end to end. And their story was actually highlighted in, if you've read the book or heard about it, the $1 Billion Brand Club. And in that book, it's cited by people they interviewed for, the success behind Warby Parker, that their success was really driven on their focus of making connection with customers. And when you think about that, it's all about building a relationship and making sure that is paramount. And so for us, when we think about building a relationship, there are 4 things that you'd want, whether it's a friend or a family member or a significant other, that you want the other party in that relationship to do. You want them to understand and recognize you. You want them to anticipate your needs, grow with you, and surpass your expectations. breaking those down one by one in terms of understanding and recognizing, you really want them to discover and learn about your interests, your passions, your preferences, and then demonstrate that awareness through, the knowledge and interactions that they have with you. In terms of reacting and anticipating your needs, once you've built that solid foundation of understanding, then you can think about, how would they feel and what can I do to make them happy? From a CX perspective, that could be things like serving up relevant content or tools to keep customers informed, engaged, and even inspired. In terms of growing with you, healthy relationships require work to be maintained. It's no secret there. And, it's a journey and not a destination. And over time, people change. So let's acknowledge and embrace that. Let's be in a mindset of wanting to grow old with our customers. Because if we make those connections with individuals, we can then zero in on what they want and follow up to see if anything has changed. And then last, surpass expectations. I think, in any relationship, especially those that are romantic in nature, you never want to fall into this mode of sweatpants mode, right? You never really want to be taken for granted. And so to help keep things from going stale, look for moments of delight. Remember, not only the big things are important, but the small things, whether it's smile with a service with a smile or, those micro moments that really contribute to a sense of mutual caring and loyalty. And so here at Horizontal, we think about solutions and experiences built around relationships. So if you look at having the customer relationship in the center and you have these 4 pillars of the relationship surrounding it, we try to figure out how we connect those to the core journeys and touch points as you go through an end-to-end experience with them. So at the end of the day, things like your web experience, your mobile, your tablet, all these things need to be connected, as I mentioned earlier, to really drive to that no dead end experience that we want to create for customers. And we also know that in terms of trying to connect them, it's critical that you have the right operations and systems in place. So as we go through the motions, again, with these touch points as they start to build around your customer and having them connected, what's critical is you think about the experience management platform, your content creation operations, think of like Sitecore Content Hub and the features that has, commerce and self-service. On the other side, engagement tools like marketing automation with Marketing Cloud, journey management, campaign platforms, DMP, all those things really help to create for a holistic, connected journey that can be managed and run effectively. And the other thing that we fully acknowledge too, where again, admittedly, we aren't touching all aspects of the organization, but we have to keep these into consideration. So people are critical in the process. So having the right size team, the right skill sets, but not to be underestimated as well is having the right culture in your company, and a culture that motivates and empowers employees to, one, do their best for each other, but then also do the best that they can to realize your company's mission. The other is tools, so everything from ERPs, resource management, financial tracking, all of the things at an enterprise level that need to be implemented to support the marketing stack as well, and your organization to get your team to be effective in their jobs and measure success. Process, a lot of the things that we do with our clients centered around agile methodologies, or in a lot of cases, sort of that hybrid model of WAGILE, so waterfall and agile. But whatever methodology or process you adopt, make sure that it's being leveraged in a way that fits the dynamic of your organization and maturity of marketing and modern practices for marketing technology and activities and tactics. And last is data. Again, like I mentioned in the Ascend 2 study, and like it indicated, data analytics is critical, and in particular, having the right data flow across systems and shared across teams is really important. Here at Horizontal, we look at it and analogous to sort of the notion of going to the theater. So there's the notion of onstage. That refers to all the customer-facing interfaces, websites, e-com, mobile, service portals, emails, chats, and more. So those are things that, from a end consumer perspective that they feel and embrace and build a relationship with your brand. Backstage refers to the data, the tools, the technology, the integrated operations that enable your team to deliver those connected experiences. And so again, we're coming to that where we'll talk more about how Sitecore and Salesforce have capabilities that work in unison and harmony together, so that you can really unlock their capabilities to address these customer needs. So in terms of delivering connected experiences, one of the big things, and again, not to beat a dead horse here, but customer data is a critical starting point. And what we see a lot is customers don't actually have a problem with the amount of data they have. They actually, more often than not, are sitting on an embarrassment of riches of data. But where the issue lies is when that data is not structured or not unified in a way to take action. That's where the problem really lies. And that's where a lot of sort of the starting point that we work with our customers to sort of figure out, what data do you have? Is it connected? And if, a lot of cases where it's not, you start to get into situations where you're in analysis paralysis. When it's unstructured, unorganized, and disparate, it's hard to know what to do with it and hard to know how to connect all the systems. But really, we want to get to a point where we can turn data into actionable outcomes. And when you get to that place, you can then start to make data-driven decisions. And that's at a place where your data is structured, it's organized, it's integrated. So at that point, the data and analytics starts to be the glue that holds the experience together. You get a better sense and a more holistic 360 view of your customer. You can start to get to customer decisioning. So hopefully you get a better sense and identify who your higher value customers are and put more value and effort on them, because we know over a longer period of time and lifetime, they'll be a more valuable customer. And attribution, I think that's kind of the holy grail, making sure all the things we're doing from a marketing experience and sales perspective are really tying to direct sales, and we can attribute to that. And when you think about all these things working together, inbound tactics like advertising, social, paid, search, getting customers into your closed loop, no dead end experience, that's all enabled by technology. Again, the CRMs, the DAMs, the EXPs of the world. Data is a place where we can also then take advantage of the emergence of AI to make all of the things that we're doing more intelligent, more automated, more scalable, and more effective. Because at the end of the day, what we really want to get to is friction-free interactions for our customers, contextual engagements, because personalization right now is table stakes. I think what customers want is they want experiences that go beyond just geolocation or the first names. They want experiences that understand, what they did with us before and what we might be needing next, to then ultimately get to those anticipatory solutions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris to talk more about the power of Sitecore and Salesforce. And before we do that, again, continue to put your questions into the chat there. We'll hold time at the end to answer those. So Chris, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Arturo. So I did want to talk a little to, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Sitecore and Salesforce, and I just wanted to kind of, touch on it, not go too deep on this, but just give you a sense of what systems are typically in play when we talk about this relationship. And really, this maps to that really nicely to what Arturo was just describing, this coming together of the DXP with the CRM, which is really marrying that backstage environment with the onstage environment in a really seamless, scalable way. So a little background first on this relationship. So in 2017, Sitecore and Salesforce formed this strategic alliance. A lot of it has to do with joint product efforts between the two companies. And really the goals we've set out to achieve have been a few key principles. One of them being establishing this complete end-to-end customer journey that includes experiences across both platforms. It's putting the customer at the center of everything the business is doing. And it's about truly delivering that one-to-one customer experience at every touch point, right? Those are the things that when we think about what we're going to do next, those are the guiding principles of the relationship. And this relationship continues today. You may have seen some PR come out recently, and you're going to hear more about this at Dreamforce, is this new concept of Salesforce Digital 360, where Salesforce is really leaning into digital experiences, both with solutions from their own platform, as well as key top ISV partner offerings, including Sitecore and a couple of others. All right, so this is a framework that you might have seen before, but I think it does a good job of kind of summing up how these different pieces come together. Now, when we look across, literally thousands of customers that use Sitecore and Salesforce in tandem, we see a pattern. And these are the things that typically come into play, and these are the users that typically are benefiting directly from these different pieces, right? So at the top left, you see what we're referring to as web CMS, the .com website building infrastructure that Sitecore is so well known for traditionally. And primary users in that case are you folks that are doing digital and website management operations and digital marketing. And then the Content Hub suite, which includes that next generation digital asset management platform, along with the CMP and mobile or marketing resource management capabilities as well. And of course, Marketing Cloud comes into the equation when we look across all these customers, right? That is Salesforce's premier, high scale marketing automation platform that comes up so often for major brands that have global reach and global operations. And of course, it's about the single source of truth for the customer, right? And Salesforce is really leaning in to be that single source of truth, both within their Sales Cloud, but also through the new CDP offering that's just been announced and is going to be talked about a lot at the upcoming Dreamforce event, right? Sales Customer 360 Audiences product. So there are 3 different connectors that we do spend a lot of time working on with the Salesforce team. One of them being this connector between Marketing Cloud and Sitecore XP or Web CMS. Just as often is that connection point between Sitecore XP and Salesforce CRM, the Sales Cloud, for really, ensuring those one-to-one experiences that maximize all the profile data that lives in CRM. And finally, the connector between the digital asset management offering and Marketing Cloud. So these 3, are really the focus of a lot of the energy that we are working on with the Salesforce product team.
And Chris, I know you and I have talked, but these things, connectors are great, especially if you're thinking about, speed to market, scale, and even level of stability, right? Chris, you still there? Maybe we lost Chris there.
Excuse me. Yes, absolutely. It's about speed to market, but it's also about ongoing ease of use and consistency for your connection points, right? I think a lot of companies have fallen into the old ways of doing custom integration between systems like this. And as we know, these are living, breathing platforms that are evolving day to day. So, these connectors evolve with these platforms and make sure that your systems are talking to each other, not only today, but down the road.
Thanks, Chris, for shedding more light on those connectors and how you can start to really integrate Sitecore and Salesforce. And so as you dive deep on the technology side, or at least the product side, let's take a quick step back and take a level higher up. A lot of things that we do, Chris mentioned in the agenda, there's three cases. This first one that I want to walk through is more of a art of the possible. So this is more of a hypothetical, like what could it look like to integrate Sitecore and Salesforce in the context of a financial services, in this case, quote unquote, you can't see me, air quotes, Acme Credit Union journey. So let's meet Arturo. The whole notion of this persona is really trying to build member lifetime value and doing that through a trigger-based marketing program. So let's imagine Arturo is an avid shopper. He loves to purchase everything from clothes, electronics, and home goods. And in a given month, he might pay 5 or 6 bills across various third-party retailer credit cards like Best Buy, The Gap, et cetera. So when we looked at this hypothetical situation, let's imagine they have Sitecore. They obviously have a banking system for transactional functions, Salesforce CRM, and then Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So if you look at the journey, let's just imagine Arturo has to pay his bills like he should as an adult, and goes to acmecu.org, which is governed by Sitecore from a CMS perspective. And all the things that he does there is captured sort of web analytics in the experience profile. He then goes, logs into his account. So now we're on the banking system where he goes to pay some bills and sets up maybe a new payee account, transacts and leaves. So seems like somewhat of an innocuous touch point, but the good news is we've been capturing all of those things along the way and been storing them in the CRM and Salesforce. So knowing that Arturo pays 3 or 4 different credit cards, let's get him an offer to consolidate that credit into a low interest rate product. So via both CRM, the data that was captured there, and Marketing Cloud, will issue and deliver an email with maybe there's a message of consolidate your credit into one low interest rate with our new line of credit product. So Arturo, interested, clicks on it, gets the landing page, views it, kind of digests the information, but decides to leave the site. So again, seems like we didn't convert that time, but again, knowing that he showed interest, let's send him email number 2. In this case, maybe we are a little bit more hard hitting, right? And so maybe it's a CTA to apply now, or maybe he's one of those people that likes to be a little bit more high touch. So there's a link to chat with a customer service representative. Again, that email is automated through Marketing Cloud. Arturo decides to click on chat with the CSR. So he gets to that landing page. And in terms of the interaction, he lands on a form field where it's already pre-populated with some of his information. So again, we're trying to get to that frictionless experience. Once he's ready, he clicks start chat, is then connected to a CSR who helps him finalize the application process and ultimately helps him consolidate his payments in his online checking account to that one monthly payment. So again, starting the inertia to building that lifetime member experience and positive experience over time. So that was a hypothetical case. But let's dive into a couple real life case studies that we've done with a couple of our clients. Cushman & Wakefield, Chris mentioned earlier, they're the second largest commercial real estate firm in the world. They've grown largely through mergers and acquisitions, but with growth comes growing pains. So as part of that acquisition strategy, they inherited kind of a massive tangled digital web code base and enterprise for platforms. Alongside, there was some disparate marketing automation tools and CRM. So not only was it sort of a disconnected experience for their end users, but it also internally for their teams, it was hard to operate, right? And so to help them, we went into a very deep discovery process. And one big insight right away that we found from Cushman is they right away say they are not in the buildings business. We are in the people business. And it was kind of interesting to learn more because where their strength lies, and especially when you think about real estate services and how inherently bespoke they are, think about like if I'm looking for a health, care property or hospital versus a retail property, those two things are largely different, especially in terms of what you need in a property. So their strength lies in their people and their ability to deliver client-focused solutions. So the new site really had some core guiding principles. Obviously, it needed to be client-focused. We needed to elevate and prominently show their internal people and their brokers. It needed to be flexible and easy use, again, both for the end users and the internal web operations team. Localization was critical, just given we're obviously in the real estate business here. Storytelling, whether that's thought leadership and thought pieces in relation to trends that are happening in the market and real estate, and data collection, very critical in terms of leads. So to break that down in sort of a high level schematic, when we needed to get to that 360 view of the customer, capture leads and nurture those leads in this flow left to right. Say you're a prospect, you get to the website, again, managed by Sitecore, you fill out a form to contact us. That information is then captured and lead is captured into CRM, which is distributed to the right broker. And then in terms of marketing automation and follow-up via Pardot, we send those confirmation emails and follow-up emails to the prospect there, which hopefully ends up in a meeting where the broker can then further understand what property needs you have. All of those interactions are continuing to be stored in CRM so they can continue that cycle of nurturing that lead to ultimately, hopefully they sign a lease with Cushman. And the good news when we launched, we saw over 3,000 MQLs, marketing qualified leads, in the first 3 months, up from 0. The 200 sites were consolidated onto a single enterprise web presence and experience. So again, think about scale and operational efficiencies there. And then they got to a better single view of the customer. So again, more to come. We're still on this journey with them to continue to improve, but initial results we're both very excited about. The other case study for Micah, in terms of their audience, their core audience is really the designers and the architects of projects. And as they go through their process, their creative process for design, they go through a lot of these inspirational, pictures and mood boards, and ultimately get to what you see there in front of you, which was sort of a collection of patterns and materials that they could use. Unfortunately, the old site was not designed and built based on that mental model. It was hard to use. The products that they have, which again is over 400,000 SKUs, were categorized and organized based on how Formica internally looked at them and not how designers looked at those products. So we went to a redesign. So really kind of from a design perspective, made it more open, fresh, approachable, made inspiration easy to find, but more importantly, made the swatch download and samples filtering and search more in tune with how a designer looks for it, which is pretty simple based on color or pattern. And once they find a color or pattern that they look for, building in the functionality to download a swatch, or more importantly, order a free sample, because that sample then goes on that mood board that I mentioned earlier. So again, high level flow of what that looks like when designer architect finds a color that they want, they can add that sample to their cart. Again, all of that information, that lead information, is captured in Sales Cloud. So again, twofold. Sales Cloud information then hooks up with the sample fulfillment operations to actually deliver the sample directly. And then through Marketing Cloud, we send those follow-up emails that they did, in fact, confirm we have your swatch on the way or sample on the way. The sales team and distribution partners have access to this data as well, so that they can follow up in case of how much, what square footage do you need for this, and how can I help you with that order to fulfill it? So again, all of these things connected in a way that really drive to those leads. And the good news is, in terms of results for Formica, we've seen 300% increase in swatch downloads, and again, more importantly, is the 200% increase in sample orders. So again, just going through high level, a few of the customers that we've done this integration between Sitecore and Salesforce with. Now, I know I've thrown a lot at you and trying to get through this, so we have time for questions. But we're probably wondering how, what does this mean for me? How could this work for me? Especially if 55% of you have said you have that low integration aspect to where you're currently at in your marketing stack. Kevin Flynn, who's one of the VPs at Salesforce, kind of summed it up really well in terms of maximizing the potential of Sitecore and Salesforce. You're going to need that strategy, right, and that technical expertise, and also finding partners and/or within your organization, core players that know the intricacies and dynamics of how you run your business and your customers. So in terms of a framework of getting started, this is something we like to do here at Horizontal. So obviously, again, start with a strategy. I don't think buying technologies alone will be the solution. But really, if you look at and understand your customer needs, one of the things, again, that hypothetical journey that I showed for the Acme Credit Union, prototype out what an ideal CX journey looks like. Once you do that, you can start to reverse engineer and use what I call the PRII model, which is preserve, which I'm a huge fan of. If it ain't broke, don't fix, right? So if you have things that are working, whether it's technology or the experience, keep those in place. Recalibrate is refine. If there are moments where you can hone in or slightly improve without a lot of major involvement and or effort, start to do those as well. Integrate. This is kind of where we start a lot of projects with our clients to make sure their systems are integrated to get to that connected experience and connected system maturity. And then once you've really kind of hit upon the first three, that's where you can start to innovate. So with that, 3 and 4 kind of tied together, building out that roadmap, and you want to build out a roadmap that has the parallel path to executing those tactical low-hanging fruit things to improve along the way, because business doesn't stop. But then also looking forward to getting into more transformational and foundational things that get you to that next level of the Pelotons and the Warby Parkers of the world. And lastly, it's never a one and done. So always consider how you learn and refine over time. So with that concludes the majority of our content for the webinar. So again, thank you for hanging with us through the duration. I'll hand it over back to you, Chris, to close it out.
Yeah, thanks, Arturo. So again, thank you for joining us today. There are a bunch of helpful resources available in the interface there. And also keep in mind that Sitecore Symposium is coming up. Arturo, did you want to mention a couple of Salesforce-oriented sessions?
Yeah, there's a couple that we have. So my peer Dave, who's VP of Digital Solutions, if you want to learn more about the Cushman case study that I walked through, he'll be on virtual stage, quote unquote, with Eric Wagner, who's the VP of Digital Marketing there. We'll be talking more about how we helped take Cushman from a cost center to a revenue center. And then there's going to be an influencer roundtable. So that'll be one of our founding partners, Chris Staley here at Horizontal, Dave once again, and Annie Norman, who's the Director of Digital Solutions on that panel. So again, looking forward to another successful and fun symposium this year virtually. But that was kind of the last of our content, and we can open it up for questions. Go ahead. Open it up?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, please send along your questions. We do have some coming in already. So coming off the presses here. We got one. We use Pardot for marketing automation. Is there a connector for that? So good question. That does come up a lot. There is not a dedicated connector to Pardot. However, the off-the-shelf Sitecore connector for Salesforce Sales Cloud is a really useful one to do integration with Pardot. The nice thing about Pardot is it's built very elegantly on top of the Sales Cloud code line. And so we have a lot of customers who use our CRM connector to do a lot of useful integration with the campaign object and some other aspects of Pardot. And so reach out to your Sitecore representative to find more information about that one.
Yeah, we got, thanks, Chris. There's another question here from concept to completion. How long does this type of effort take? Certainly a good question and not a silver bullet for all, but I'll answer that in the purest of consulting ways. It depends, right? So we've worked with some customers that have made pretty good progress in like a 3-month time frame. I think especially if you have efforts that are already underway, and I mentioned on that one slide in terms of defining and building a roadmap that's parallel path, incremental progress can be really impactful if you have sort of these bigger work streams and initiatives that are already in flight. If you're further sort of earlier on in your process of getting the transformation and sort of these bigger things and need a more transformational effort behind it, these things can take several months. And again, I can't stress this enough, having the right strategy in place to make sure you're approaching it in the right way, but also identifying at the start what those key performance indicators are will help you make sure you're not sort of getting into a place of designing things that might need rework later on. Let's see, what other questions? In cloud without Content Hub. Maybe Chris, do you want to answer that one from a product perspective?
Yeah, so I believe that that you are asking, our DAM solution is a separate solution from XP, but I think maybe the question, I believe the question here is, is it possible to share data between XP and Marketing Cloud without Content Hub? The answer is absolutely yes. We have actually created a few different connectors to make connection into Marketing Cloud very robust, no matter what Sitecore systems you're using. So the XP to Marketing Cloud connector not only brings imagery in, but also behavioral data, trigger points, and other things like that. So it's very robust, and it doesn't require the Content Hub be involved. And it also does bring in all of the imagery data into Marketing Cloud as well. So, it's very similar to functionality to the connector we have for Content Hub. I hope that answers the question. If not, feel free to loop back and we can discuss that more.
Yeah. One logistical question. Will this webinar be available to replay later? So yes, you'll receive a link to replay this webinar and a survey in your email that Chris mentioned earlier. So again, cross your fingers, $100 to Amazon. And then it's also available on demand via the Sitecore website to download as well. So happy to share this as pass along post this webinar. What else here? Here's a question. How will this change the way our sales and marketing employees do their job? From my perspective, this is really where, again, I'm kind of talking about it on that earlier slide where it showed the customer relationship and the cores of that relationship run by experience and engagement platforms and ultimately enterprise operations. I think this is where we see a lot of opportunities to better connect your marketing, your digital, and your sales and technology teams. When those systems are in place, and again, I know technology isn't the only thing, but we've seen really good gains where if systems are connected and data can be passed from one team to another, they can work in unison and help guide that customer along the journey, so it doesn't feel like a disjointed handoff, right? And so I think those are things that are going to be key to helping change the way you look at how your teams, your sales and marketing teams do their jobs. I think ultimately too, there's a level of culture and adoption. If you illustrate the power of these tools and how to make their lives easier as well, I think we've seen a lot of success with our clients with adoption of the tooling and using the tooling to make for a better end customer experience. I don't know, Chris, did you have any thoughts on that question? I know you had that slide that had the 4 departments and teams.
Yeah, I think in terms of impacts on the workload, I mean that's a big part of the connector philosophy, right? I mean, we see a lot of organizations doing a very heavy manual load to get data and content across systems, and that also limits it limits the campaign marketer who's working in Marketing Cloud every day to really get that full scope of all the content and data available to them, right? The fact that it's weaving right into the interface removes that very laborious step of porting this stuff across piece by piece, and really kind of supercharges the ability for the campaign marketer to take full advantage of that and get those campaigns out faster. So yeah, that's a huge factor behind what we're doing here.
Probably have time for maybe one last question. Let's see. What are ways we can make sure our efforts are successful? So really good question, really loaded question. I don't know if there's enough time in the time we have remaining in the webinar, but again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, benchmarking is a good start. So kind of understand where you're at current state. Obviously, you want to see a move in the positive direction, and with regard to the needle moving once your MVP is launched, or whatever new features, functionality that you have to better the customer experience. Clearly defined, I think goals and KPIs are another thing. We've actually seen a lot of instances where companies will measure for measurement's sake. So really make sure your measurement strategy and things you're defining as KPIs are laddering up to the meaningful business outcomes that you have. I think one easy example to pick on is web analytics, right? Like time spent on site. On the surface, I feel like that's an easy one to say. The more time a customer is spending on my site, the more engaged. But we've seen in some instances where they're actually not spending a lot of time on your site because they're engaged. They're actually spending more time because they're kind of lost. They don't know what next step to take. So again, make sure you dig in a little bit deeper in terms of what you're measuring, and make sure those things are measuring against core business outcomes. Because again, I would hate for anyone on the webinar to get into that analysis paralysis aspect that I was talking about. So I think with that, Chris, any closing thoughts? We can kind of close out the webinar and move on. Go for it.
Yeah, no, thanks everyone for joining today. Again, I am seeing a couple more questions we didn't have time to get to today, so we'll be sure to follow up directly with you on those. Watch for the follow-up email with a link to that survey. Again, Horizontal's put together a really neat ebook with more tips on how to go about approaching this, so we encourage you to go there. And visit Sitecore.com at Sitecore.com/Salesforce for a lot of helpful information on system integration, about making these things talk to each other, about the connector specifically, and other things. So a lot more to be had, and reach out directly. Again, don't be shy. So thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time. Take care.
Bye now.